Hey guys, what's up? Joshua 6 Up Tabletop, doing a battle report of sorts. It's kind of got pictures and video put together. Got my first time trying something like this. Hopefully keep it succinct, kind of walk through our experience about playing Valour Fortitude with epic battles miniatures from Warlord Games for Waterloo. And yeah, let's get into it. So as we see here, I got a little photo. This is kind of our setup here. On the left, we have the French, played by my two buddies, General J and General Tim. This bottom section was controlled by General J, and the top section controlled by General Tim. I'll briefly get into some of the photos, and then I was controlling the British to the right. How we played it was you get points for enemies whenever you issue a defeat to an enemy, and we had three different areas of control for the map that we could get points on if you controlled. So this forest area right here, we had a building over here that if you controlled had troops in it, and then this building up top that had troops in it. And that's a general overview. We'll be kind of taking like a turn by turn, end of turn. If you're here for this kind of thing, great. I'd love to kind of walk you through our story. It was a fun video. Fun time playing, really fun time. And if this isn't really your thing, then that's totally fine to skip out on this video. No big deal. Alright, let's move in, kind of documenting the first turn had by the French, as I had them be the attacker. Just disclaimer, Valour and Fortitude, everything like for sure got rules wrong, but it was a fun game to pick up, and I just walk through some of the units as I go through the different slides. So yeah, so going through the French, so this is being on the British side, this would be to my right, so this would just be the right side of the battlefield. This was the 1st Brigade that the French had, 3 battalions of infantry. This represents 3 different artillery pieces, and 3 different units of light cavalry. There's some lancers, some chasseurs à cheval, and some light dragoons and stuff, but in terms of game points and stuff, in game like data and stats, they're all pretty similar. You'll see here the middle brigade for the French had some artillery in the back, as well as a lot of infantry that were squared up here. So only a couple of them painted, but I did put the flags on them and stuff. So this was, we played a little bit farther in the back because the mat was only 3 feet, so we wanted to play 6x4 foot table. These are fences that we play with Star Wars Legion, but it's supposed to represent like a road. And this is some trees from Games Workshop. So you see a bunch of French infantry. These are all line infantry clumped in the middle with some additional artillery here. And then on the left flank, there's some horse artillery in the back, and a couple squads of heavy cavalry brigade for the French. So they were all making a move up, being aggressive as they ought to be. So that's the French first turn setup and movement, and let's head into the British. Alright, end of British turn 1 here. I have the nameplates that I had printed out for the different units, so you can see the British line infantry, foot artillery. The front here, got a rifle battalion, Highlander infantry. Just easier ways to keep, keep tabs on what was being done. So this brigade on the bottom, unfortunately, I rolled a 1 when trying to give them orders. So of course, Prince William of Orange on the bottom there. So no movement here. The orders were lost. I moved up my hussars and dragoons and horse artillery to secure the flank there, and had some foot artillery and such moving in the middle. I did a double move with the guard. I had the guard and the cannons trying to move towards the forest to secure positions, set up a defensive or offensive line here. This second brigade moved up behind the house. We're going to move into the house and then start our approach. And then on the left side, you can see the French heavy cavalry were moving forward. So the British heavy cavalry brigade with 2 heavy dragoons and the unit Scots Greys and some horse artillery moved up to answer the French aggression. So that was the first turn done. A lot of posturing, not much there in terms of action. And yeah, that was the first turn. We'll get on to the second. Alright, French turn 2. This was kind of my first attempt at trying to record some video. There's not much other video in the game, but yeah, this is kind of what we were going at, so enjoy. French turn 2. We got the heavy cavalry moved up. There must be some moisture in the gun, in the French gunpowder. The French cannon shot delivered 1 wound on the British horse artillery. The French did an aggressive double move up the center, looking to capture the woods. Then we have some light cavalry positioned behind the building, looking for some flanking maneuvers. Brought in from reserves the Old Guard, waiting to do Napoleon's bidding. And on the French left, a defensive posture of squares were formed to potentially dissuade the British light cavalry from advancing. So there is the end of French turn 2, and we'll go into British turn 2. Same here, British turn 2. We got into a nice little cavalry scrap, but this was also another short video, and that's it for the videos. Enjoy. Alright, end of British turn 2. There was a nice cavalry scrap in the middle where the British heavy dragoons routed the French carbineers, and then in turn another British dragoon got routed for the rest of the battlefield. Secured the building here. The French had moved up. Some fire was exchanged by the force, and additional movement, a feint of the light cavalry by the British on the side, and moving up, still a defensive position taken by the French, obscuring their light cavalry. Let's move to French turn 3. Just a quick note here, in this fight is an absolute bloodbath. The French heavy cavalry and the British heavy cavalry just split, hit the middle, and just hit each other right outside this farm patch. Luckily, I rolled really well, while my opponent, General J, rolled very low, so that's why these heavy dragoons were able to absolutely rout the French cuirassiers. Though these French heavy dragoons, I believe they were heavy dragoons, were able to rout another squad of the dragoons, and then this 2v1 match with his units getting support came out into almost a draw. So yeah, it was super bloody in the sense of that these units just hit each other and just started deleting heavy cavalry from the map. So this was a pretty pivotal point in the battle, that if any one of these heavy cavalry units would have gotten loose, then it would have been just great opportunities to flank on the side. So yeah, end of French turn 3. As you can see in the back here, we got the French artillery and horse artillery were shooting away. Basically, in terms of what happened in this and the fight with the heavy cavalry, there's one squad of French dragoons that did manage to clear out some British artillery here, but as you can clearly see, they're facing down some bayonets and some loaded muskets from the British. The French, I think there was the 3rd Brigade that was here, moved up in their infantry masses, looking to assault the house, and the units positioned in the field. In the meanwhile, a lot of fighting was exchanged here between there was another center brigade of infantry, basically going up against these 2 guard battalions for the British. covering a little bit more in the middle. You can see the French moved up, the Old Guard and the Marines, as well as their light cavalry were still sitting behind the building, kind of waiting to deploy in what position they really wanted to attack. Meanwhile, the French artillery, the Imperial Guard artillery, as well as this large 6-pounder battery just kept firing into the British line. So I felt like there's a lot of pressure coming from the artillery. So I felt like I needed to make an action, but it was hard to commit with the cavalry, knowing that there was a bunch of infantry, line infantry, formed up in squares. So yeah, this started becoming a very contentious fight with the I believe, this is the guard. I think these are the foot guard that ended up taking a ton of damage, but they managed not to flee right away. So they had position to assault the woods. Yeah, covered again over here. I just had this one unit of dragoons move up while the at this first brigade finally managed to get their orders together, so they started to come up to the table to assault. And meanwhile, I had another light dragoon attempt to come across the table and maybe create a flanking maneuver on either near the forest or behind the building. There's just a nice shot of some artistic shots of we got just some fuzz for the smoke of the guards as they're beginning to assault the forest. That's British. Turn 3. Just to clarify, that was actually British, a French turn 3, not British turn 3. So this is British turn 3. As you can see here, there were cavalry that were chilling, but they got deleted by some units shooting out here, bringing up this rifle battalion in a flank to set up a line here to attempt to infiltrate into these French. I had some Highlanders holding the line here, and the British line infantry and cannons by the house started putting a ton of shots into the French lines as they were coming up. A big scrum started to happen in the forest, as this was an objective area, and the British Guard managed to put down a ton of damage on the defending French infantry in the force, supported by another unit of British Guard. And oddly enough, we have Picton, even though he wouldn't technically be a brigade commander, but it's fun using the epic models and all that good stuff. So it's funny seeing Picton lead the guard in their assault of the forest. I had a couple different options here, kept moving up, still taking cannon fire. How things work in this game as most, like the closest thing gets shot. So I had this sacrificial unit of light dragoons, and I knew that there was going to be some action from the Imperial Guard as well as the light cavalry that were bunched up. So I sent in a unit of another unit of British Hussars, light Hussars, to try to tie up this light cavalry bunch. However, that was not a great idea, and they took a ton of casualties, while the French barely took any casualties. So that was close up of there. Yeah, British turn 3, and yeah, so far game's going pretty good. The French have a pretty strong right, while the British are doing pretty good in the center and on the left. Moving into French turn 4, the large attack columns broke up. The first rows fired, and then the backup battalions moved in an aggressive manner to assault the British line infantry that were in the farm. And that's pretty much all that happened on the left. There was some shooting here that I believe whiffed into the Highlanders, so there wasn't too much done in that regard. Just a close-up of some of the gunpowder from the Highlanders, and Uxbridge leading the defense of the farm. In the center was a completely different story. After much wounds going down, this French front battalion, taking wounds up to its max, managed to break the 1st Guard Infantry Battalion, and they routed. Meanwhile, as we'll see, the 2nd Guard Battalion will be there shortly. The Imperial Guard in the back began to move forward up the roads to impose their presence, and the Hussars that were here from the British got promptly defeated. Squares are moving up, and yeah, that's pretty much what happened here. We see we have a Lancer charge through the force that ended up picking up the regiment of rifles along with some artillery fire. And we'll see that these Highlanders promptly see away with the charge of the Lancers. But it was good to see that I made the French use some of their light cavalry in an attempt to dissuade the British. Meanwhile, the British, I still had forgot my reserves, so I hadn't fully brought in all my reserves. As the French had the Imperial Guard in reserve, I also just had one brigade in reserve that I would be bringing on shortly. So yeah, that would be the French, and we'll move on again to the British. Got British turn 4. As we can see here, there were 2 battalions that were attempting to assault the British line. So the British did away with one of the battalions with just superior firepower. I think I played one of the cards that Valour Fortitude has, where you basically just can add 1 dice to all your firing. So there was just a ton of damage that was dealt out in the fire phase. Holding the house still, playing very defensively. The British Hussar unit that was over here moved through the center for a flank, as the second unit of Guard infantry broke the first battalion of French infantry that were holding was holding the forest. So casualties were starting to mount there. I brought a single British line infantry into the middle of the crossroads to basically try to just buy time till my reserves came forward, try to buy time to stop the Imperial Guard, the old guard and such. However, that proved a little, that did not prove super useful. And then on the right, just starting to take a lot of damage. The squares started coming up. Fire was exchanged with my horse artillery firing into the squares, and my line my line units firing into the square. So we started picking up some hits there, and then I did remember, so I brought on my other brigade, so some Highlanders, some rifle, another foot artillery, and another infantry. So it was time for me to push them up the field and to see if we can get some damage done in that Imperial Guard. So this is French turn 5. Unfortunately, this was the last turn we had time to play. It was getting late, and I had some dinner plans, and other buddies had some friends too. Plans and stuff to do with their friends as well. So unfortunately, this was the last turn. As you can see here, we got some damage spread on the British, but the French were altogether defeated on the left side. So a great victory for Wellington, Uxbridge, and the British on this side. In the middle was a story completely different. Picton did pass his fortitude test, so his men did not break. Must be because his foul language and courage that he kept. I mean, basically, I think it was only the foot artillery that he was commanding at this point. But yes, the French, while maintaining heavy casualties, were able to control the forest. And then the Imperial Guard, Old Guard, and the Marines in the back offering support were able to basically plug up the house and the road. So that was proving a little problematic for me trying to capture these objectives. And then the far right had not quite been, well, this would be the French turn, yeah. So again, just more fire being exchanged here. The guns in the back here absolutely blasted away the first row of line infantry that I had for the British. So we have the backup, the 2nd Battalion, and these Highlanders that were pretty much almost at damage capacity. So my line was definitely thinning on the right. The French had strong control of the center, and the British did have a pretty commanding show on the left. So it was definitely coming down to see what I could do on my last turn to see where we were points wise. Yeah, final British turn, final turn of the game. We had the British lines getting ready to assault the forest. We had the rifles and British moving forward, foot artillery moving up, the hussars were moving up, and the foot artillery was beginning to put a bunch of damage down on the old guard. So I had General Tim in a position where he would like to hold this, but I began creeping up some artillery, putting some damage down on the foot guard. So we unfortunately didn't have enough time to play the next turn, but it'd be interesting to see what would have happened. Another shot of the middle, my reserve brigade moving up, the rifles, and another, yeah, this would have been a Highlander unit beginning for the assault that never happened, but assault that would have happened in the building and against the old guard. More damage was being put down here, but that's pretty much where we ended it. I had broken 3 brigades, so I had 3 points, and I controlled the house, so that was 4 points. The General J and General Tim's French army controlled the force, which was 1 point for them. They controlled this house, which was another point for them, and they had broken my light cavalry brigade, I believe. I'm not sure if it was the light. It was my heavy brigade that was over here, and I believe that later Picton ended up fleeing, so that there was 2 brigades that were broken from the British. So it ended up in a nice draw, 4-4. Some additional end of the game shots. I'm kind of just talking, man. We just had a lot of fun playing. I mean, I know this isn't. It's kind of a walkthrough. If you're still watching, that's awesome. I mean, it'd just be cool for me to watch this later on. Just thinking about games, man, it was super fun. I mean, even not having them painted, the red versus blue looked great on the table. It was fun just having a couple drinks, chucking some dice. Just imagining the different battles and the strategy and such. So I think, yeah, this ended up like being the very, very end. The British ended up managing to clear all the infantry out of the forest, but the light cavalry were able to come and secure that. In the middle, yeah, nothing too much more was done there. And on the far right here, the French lines ended up picking off, and the artillery really managed to pick off the last British line unit over here. And yeah, just a scenic shot going down the battlefield of all the troops. So overall, man, I just had so much fun playing this game. It was fun hanging out with buddies, and it really fits super well, kind of like a club team aspect. We're hoping to have more people, but ended up playing, just great with 3. I felt like the rules were simple. I know we missed probably a ton of rules, but overall, yes, it was fun, and it's just fun going through this and reliving it. So if you're here, appreciate you watching, and we'll keep some of this historical content going, and just appreciate you stopping by, and we'll see you in the next one. Thanks.